Chapter 4, Forces and Newton's Laws of Motion. So up to this point, we've been studying motion and just how it happens, how we can describe it, like a ball flying through the air. That's motion, cool. But we didn't consider what got the ball to fly through the air, right? Or why it gets pulled down by gravity. So in chapter 4, we're going to take a closer look at what can cause that ball to launch into the air, as well as what causes the gravity that pulls it back down. So our first section, concepts of force and mass, we're going to take a look at some few definitions here. First, a force is any kind of push or pull. So it's just being able to nudge something, act on it. So we have two basic different types of forces. One is a contact force that arises from physical contact with something, right? If I push on something because I have contact with it, then I can push it or even pull it another direction, depending on, the direction of my force. We will have a few, in contrast to this, there are the action at a distance forces, or non-contact forces. These don't require contact, and the main examples that we'll see are gravity and electrical forces. So gravity is the easiest one to see, that you don't have to be touching the earth in order for it to be pulling you down, right? When you toss a ball in the air, it gets pulled back down even when it's not touching the earth. Gravity is able to act without that contact. Most of the other forces we'll be looking at this chapter and this semester are contact ones that are connected to having that physical touch between two objects. Now, when we represent forces, we are going to use arrows so that we can make our forces look like vectors, is the fancy way of saying it. And we'll make the length of that arrow proportional to the force's magnitude, or the magnitude of the force, and then the orientation of the arrow will tell us about the direction of the force. So here we have a 15 Newton force, and it is 3 times bigger than our 5 Newton force. The arrow is 3 times longer. We also note it has a different orientation. So the 15 Newtons is pointing pure east, or in the positive x direction, versus the 5 Newtons is in both the x and the y direction. It's pointing both sideways and vertically. So this introduces the notation we'll be using when we depict forces, especially in pictures. Finally, mass is the measure of the amount of stuff contained in an object. It can also be described as the amount of matter in an object, but for our purposes, stuff works just as well. So if we compare a penny and a cargo ship contains much more stuff than the penny. It is massive compared to the penny, which has very little mass. All right, so this introduces some of the concepts that we'll be touching on. We will pick up with more applications of these in the next videos, so stay tuned.